The caramel pecan roll recipe got some criticism from bakers because Hannah does not make her own rolls. She uses name brand pre-made rolls. I don't care what kind of rolls she uses. The thing that bothers me is that it takes her a full page to say, put all the rolls on the tray. Similarly, it takes a full page to say, combine the three ingredients for the icing. It's like Hannah is trying to make her recipes as long as humanly possible.
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
After a bad car accident, Mike needs to talk to the local undertaker and traffic cop. He calls Hannah's cookie store, which is weird. He should call Earl directly, instead of calling the line that is sometimes answered by Hannah to ask her if she could look for Earl, who's sometimes there. Hannah sends Earl off with a bag of cookies for Mike. Mike worries one bag of cookies is not enough for him, so he calls Norman and asks for a second bag of free cookies, like Norman is his personal delivery driver. Hannah has been living with Norman for the past 4 books. In real time, it's been 2 years. This book says it's only been 3 weeks. So is that 5 murders in 3 weeks? Yikes. Hannah decides 3 weeks is long enough. She has to move out of Norman's house, or else the people in town will start to gossip about their relationship. Lucky for her, there's a big fishing tournament going on this week. Dick and Sally offer to let Hannah live at the inn, in exchange for Hannah being their dessert chef. The tournament is run by Sonny Bowman, who hosts the local fishing show. The truth is that Sonny knows nothing about fishing. He only got the job because he's good looking. Sonny gets flirty with some married women. That's bad. The list of most common murder victims in this series include celebrity and lewd men. By being both, Sonny is practically begging to be killed. Hannah arranges for Norman to get a room at the inn, close to her room, even though the whole point of Hannah being at the inn is so she can be away from Norman for a while. They ask Hannah's mother to watch their cats. By coincidence, Mother just placed a huge order for cat toys. No joke, she lists 22 different cat items she purchased this week on the odd chance that she'd have to watch the cats. I don't think that's normal behavior. Sonny causes a scene when he dances with married women at dinner. Sonny is so drunk he can barely form sentences. It's a wonder he can dance without falling over. Mother comes up with a 4-part plan to stop Sonny. First, Andrea will dance with him. Then Michelle will dance with him. Then Hannah will dance with him. Then Mother dances with him and steps on his foot so he can't dance anymore. I don't get it. If the plan is to step on Sonny's foot, why does he need to dance with 4 women first? Can't Mother stomp on his foot right away and save everyone the hassle? Everyone thinks it's a great plan, and people compliment Mother for being a hero who saved her daughters from the clutches of a drunk guy. That makes no sense because she forced them to dance with the drunk guy. Mother is not the hero here. The next afternoon, Hannah and Norman find Sonny's dead body in his fishing boat. Hannah calls Mike because Norman doesn't have Mike's phone number, which is not true. Mike called Norman earlier for a cookie delivery. Continuity! Hannah can use her cell phone in the middle of the lake because they built a cell phone tower next to the inn for the competition. In real life, setting up a cell phone tower is a lot more complicated than that. You can't just rent a cell phone tower for a week. Doc's autopsy says Sonny was shot in the back at a long distance, so the police conclude the killer is an expert marksman. At the end of the book, though, the culprit says they made Sonny look at a water lily garden before shooting him in the back, meaning the culprit was extremely close to the victim. So either Doc's autopsy report is wrong, or the author forgot the victim was killed at a distance. Hannah gets permission to tell Dick and Sally about the murder. I repeat, Mike says it's okay to tell Dick and Sally. In the next chapter, Hannah's worried because she can't tell Dick and Sally. She wants to tell them, but she didn't get permission first. No, you did get permission, Hannah. How did you forget? Continuity. Norman and Sally have some trouble convincing Hannah to solve this murder mystery. Hannah says she's not interested because the victim's a total stranger. Like that ever stopped her before. Rosa is the head housekeeper. Rosa says she went into Sonny's room last night to turn down the lights. I've never heard of housekeepers doing that. Rosa should at least knock before entering a guest's room uninvited in the middle of the night. Sonny was passed out drunk. A blonde woman was with him. Rosa let Sonny's fiancée Lily into the room around midnight. Sonny still was passed out, but now the woman was unclothed. Lily kicked the blonde woman out of the room. There's plenty of talk about this blonde woman before and after this scandalous scene, but Hannah never bothers to talk to that suspect. She does talk to Joe Dietz, who's a suspect because the victim was engaged to Joe's wife some 20 years ago. Maybe Joe still has a grudge. I don't know why Hannah ignores the motive from the day of the murder in favor of a motive that's older than her sister. Lily confirms what happened last night. She is traumatized to hear her fiancé is dead, but Hannah's cookies are so good that Lily can't stay sad for long. The healing power of cookies doesn't seem to work on Mike. He feels so off he can't bring himself to ask questions during the police interview. He claims he can't get a handle on the case, his heart isn't in police work anymore. Maybe he is suffering from burnout after tackling 5 murders in 3 weeks. Like last book, Hannah gives Andrea a cooking lesson. I'm glad Andrea has a new storyline. I just wish Hannah wasn't such a jerk about it. She treats Andrea like a 3-year-old the whole time. She even claps when Andrea answers a question correctly. Andrea's not in preschool, Hannah. Just for fun, try to guess what the cooking lesson is. What would you explain to a beginner who is making fruit chocolate bar cookies for the first time? Hannah's lesson is how to chop dried apricots in a food processor without them getting stuck together in a ball. Because clearly that's the step beginning bakers get stuck on. Hannah meets Lily's mother, Jeanette. Jeanette says she wasn't here yesterday because she separated from her husband after 13 years of fighting a severe drug addiction that started with postpartum depression. That is a lot of extremely personal information she tells someone she just met a minute ago. Rosa was the family's nanny. She pretty much raised Lily herself. It's a coincidence the murder took place at the hotel where Rosa now works. I'm not sure either Rosa or Jeanette is a good mother to Lily. Rosa purposely let Lily walk in on her fiancé having an affair. Jeanette knew Sonny had a sordid past, including 4 failed engagements, but Jeanette didn't bother to warn Lily. She figured it wouldn't make a difference. Gee, I would like to know if my fiancé had been engaged 4 times before. Andrea's surprised when Hannah double-checks alibis with the front desk clerk. Andrea complains she's upset. Hannah doesn't trust people enough to believe they're telling the truth about where they were. Keep in mind, Andrea has helped solve over 24 murders at this point. Why is she unfamiliar with the concept of checking alibis? There's another bad continuity error. On page 195, Andrea says she knows how to use both kinds of boat motors. The next chapter starts with Andrea complaining she doesn't know how to use a boat motor. Continuity! Jeanette takes Hannah out on the lake. They talk about love and marriage. Jeanette is talking about the victim and Lily, but Hannah thinks they're talking about her failed marriage to Ross. As a result, Hannah is completely taken by surprise when Jeanette pulls out a gun and confesses to the murder. It's actually somewhat funny. Wait, you were talking about the murder? I was talking about something else. My bad. Hannah then checks her cell phone to make sure it's still recording Jeanette's confession. Still recording? When did it start recording? I double-checked. There was no mention of Hannah recording the confession earlier. Continuity! Mike and Andrea save Hannah just in time. Everybody celebrates with food, and Mike decides he cannot handle being a detective anymore. He's going to quit. This cliffhanger is followed by 14 pages of recipes, which feels like a last-minute attempt to make the book longer than 300 pages. The end. Post-book follow-up. My favorite thing about this book is that it got rid of Hannah's arguing minds, which was the worst part of the last book. This book was a mess with continuity errors. Many reviewers think it's a result of having multiple writers, but I suppose it could be sloppy editing. The continuity problems would be less obvious if the characters didn't talk about the exact same things in multiple chapters. Readers often complain characters in this series call each other by name far too often. For example, Mike and Hannah talk in chapter 13. I counted, and they call each other by name 17 times. 17 times? There's no reason for Mike to say Hannah's name so often when there's nobody else in the room he could be talking to. What's more, that conversation is half of the chapter. So a full chapter of conversation has about 30 name drops, meaning the characters call each other by name hundreds of times. There's a scene where Andrea gets a carton of goldfish crackers. It is too heavy for her to carry, so she has to use a suitcase to bring it inside. This must have been written by somebody who's never held a carton of goldfish crackers. They're not that heavy. I checked, a carton of crackers weighs less than 3 copies of this book. That is the weight Andrea needed a suitcase to hold. Andrea resurrects the invisible waitress trick. Hannah and her friends have bragged about this clever trick in about a dozen books. The idea is that if you're holding coffee or food, people won't notice when you stand by their table and listen to their conversation. It's a great way to learn private information. As someone who normally struggles to get the attention of waiters, I have serious doubts this trick works in real life. Besides, who confesses to a crime when they're eating in a public restaurant? That's a terrible place to bring up a conversation like that. Overall, this book is a typical entry in the series. It cares far more about food than anything else. The murder doesn't happen until page 100, and the investigation is lackluster. The many continuity errors betray a lack of effort in story crafting. But no matter how bad this series gets, it's still kind of fun to see Hannah and Andrea team up to solve a mystery. I give Hannah Swensen number 28, Caramel Pecan Roll Murder, a 2 out of 10.